work that I do with my clients. So when we're doing the work, I've got this 3-step transformation model. The first step is that self-understanding. Second step is really loving and accepting yourself, but also tuning into your intuition. And I would always say to my clients to gauge through your intuition, what you've got this goal. Do you feel worthy of this goal? So really trusting what comes through for you. Like, don't use your logic, use your feeling. You know, intuition, you can't put your hands on it. So it's just like, I think when you know, you just know.
Welcome to Empower Her, the podcast dedicated to empowering women with their health, wealth and well-being. Just before I get started, I have a quick request. Please consider following and sharing this podcast. Your support not only amplifies our reach, but also enables me to bring in more remarkable guests and empower more women. How do you go about discovering your inner child and working towards getting more clarity on tuning inwards and discovering your intuition? In today's episode, we delve into the concept of the inner child with the insightful Pauline Toussaint. Discover practical insights on tuning into your intuition, navigating mental health challenges, and gaining a profound understanding of yourself. Join me in this transformative conversation to unlock the keys to your inner child and embrace authenticity. Pauline, welcome to the Empower Her podcast. It's fantastic to have you on. I'm super excited to talk to you today. Please, could you share a little bit about who you are and your story and your journey to what you're doing now? That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shreya. It's really been great to have the opportunity to come on here to share my story, and I've been really looking forward to it. So I'm Pauline Toussaint, and I have been on a bit of a journey, and there's quite a lot to it. So I'll share with you the journey because it kind of shows that through all the challenges, you can actually overcome them. You can actually break through them. So I'll start with. So I was born in the UK in a town called Reading, and Reading's just outside of London. And I was born to 2 Caribbean parents who were part of the Windrush generation. And the Windrush generation was here to rebuild the UK after the wars. And it's quite ironic because my parents, when they came to the UK, they didn't feel a sense of belonging. So that's more like around, not feeling welcomed, being given the worst jobs, not being seen or considered. And currently I'm actually working in a belonging space. So I think it's quite ironic that my parents actually went through that. If you match that with generational trauma, which is the impact of racism, slavery and segregation, and, the emotional distress across generations, it's not a great combination. And so my parents were carrying their own trauma, basically. And I too, in my childhood, also had, my challenges. I had physical, mental and other abuse in my childhood. I was beaten with a belt. I was also told that I was worthless, so I totally understand where my, issues have come from. But I know that they're generational because my parents were also carrying their own stuff. And I've realised I've been able to work through the forgiveness piece with my parents. God rest their soul, they're not here anymore. But through the work I've done on myself, I've been able to understand that they were actually going through their own stuff, and what also happened was at the age of 15, my mum passed away suddenly. So, not only did I, have the trauma, being beaten, being told, called names in that way as well. My mum passing away suddenly as for a 15-year-old girl was also probably, I'd say, one of my biggest challenges in life. So, the impact of that was that I had a breakdown at the age of 20, because you mix all of that up together. I was just like not in a good place, basically. So that's kind of, the first part of that. If I roll forward onto that, I then had a second breakdown at the age of 27. And there was different things that went on in between that. My daughter was born when I was 27, and she caught meningitis at 6 weeks. So again, that fear, that grieving, that loss. But she was fine. She's pulled through it and she's doing great in the world. But, for a young person, all of that happening before the age of 30, it wasn't a great combination. And so so kind of like I then started a personal development journey of like trying to heal myself. So it was all about just really trying to heal. So what I did, I then got into personal development, and don't ask me why, how. So my very first book was a book called Creative Visualization by a lady called Shakti Gawain. And it's all about visualizing and, wanting to bring into your life what you want, basically. I coupled that with Tony Robbins. If you know about you would have the shopping channels that you'd watch on TV, and I would fall asleep. And I saw Tony Robbins was selling all of these CDs. So I bought them and I would just listen to them. And I didn't realize I was actually programming my mind out of that. So, that's kind of how my personal development journey started. And, I'll roll forward. I'm now a coach. I'm a psychotherapist. I work in the EDI space, EDI and belonging space. I'm the founder and director of a non-profit business as well. So yeah, that's kind of like a quick stop of, what the early part of my life was all about, really.
Yeah, I mean, that is a powerful journey, really. And the outcome of that has certainly been extremely powerful in the sense that, what you say about going on your own personal journey and listening to and reading about visualization and transforming your mind. People think that your mind, you say things, but there's a reason for it. And like you said, with the generational trauma and things like that, and then you reframe things and start saying things differently to yourself and through your mind is extremely powerful. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that kind of ties in with mental health, really, especially for women, and how it can, I'm not saying that is the cure for mental health, but it is a part of helping you with your mental health issues.
Most definitely. So, through my breakdowns, I just remember that I was just feeling absolute shame about it. That whole mental health around not coping, feeling the stigma of it all, not wanting to be seen. So, I knew at that point, and I don't even know if it was conscious, but I knew that I was doing it, that I need to do something. I don't want to have a second or third breakdown. And so yeah, it's all about programming your mind. Like I said, with Tony Robbins, I would just listen to those affirmations and all of what he was saying to me. And I also remember that I would be writing out my own affirmations, thinking around what else do I need to do to kind of help myself. So one of the things that I do, I journal a lot. I can't. I've lost count of how many journals I've had over my personal development journey, but it's one of the things that really helps to be able to really get that deeper understanding of yourself. Because that's kind of what I say to my clients. Like when my clients come forth, I say to them, like, self-understanding is really key to the journey. So through the psychotherapy work that I do, I say to them, we're going to go back, but we're not going to go digging around for stuff. We're going to go back to understand what's the biggest nugget, like what's the biggest thing that kind of held you back? Like, what was that thing that kind of caused you to be traumatized, in that way. So yeah, it's all about really working on the internal. And that's what it's about. It's about the thinking, it's about the belief systems, so yeah, it's about doing the work, basically. And so kind of what I was saying around my client work. So, I'm known as a transformational coach, and along with a psychotherapist and other things as well. And there are patterns with the clients that I see transform. There's absolute patterns. So the first thing, I'd say the three things are that they commit to working on themselves. So like I said, they reflect, they journal, they really work on the internal, and, they take responsibility for their own destiny. So, they don't just show up to the session, they're doing the work outside of the session, then they come back, they reflect in the session. So that is one of the first things of the people that are able to transform. And also they gain that deeper understanding of themselves. So going back and understanding the nuggets, the keys, right? Because it's all about that inner child. It's the inner child who is feeling the wounds of the past, basically.
Yeah.
So it's all about being able to connect and nurture your younger self. That's really, really important. So that's what they do as well. They connect with their inner child. And also it's about being consistent, you know, really like showing up even when it gets challenging. You know, through my own personal therapy, I would have moments where I'd be like, gosh, is this not over yet? Like, it was just really challenging, but I had to push through and I had to sit with things that I didn't want to sit with. But now I've come out the other side. So, you know, it's those three things that are really going to help people, I'd say, from the work that I've done with my clients and the people that I've seen transform. Those three things actually really help.
Yeah. When you talk about journaling, I think people can have this kind of misconception about, you know, what is that exactly, and how, you know, it's you're writing, but what do I write about? And how do I even start?
Yeah, so for example, say something's happened and you've been triggered. Let's think of an example of that. It could be in a relationship, you know, your partner's said something and you can feel yourself disconnecting, you want to retract. That is the inner child. That is the inner child. So when that happens, you would pull out your journal and just talk through the situation. So write out the situation. So this is how I felt up to the incident. This is how I felt during. This is what you said, and just kind of work it through in that way. And then what happens is it's just about getting things out, because what happens if you don't get things out, it swells around your head and it takes up so much headspace. So journaling is about just getting your thoughts down. You know, sometimes I talk to people who also have insomnia and their minds don't switch off. But I say, like, you know, write out the thoughts, you know, write the thoughts out just before you go to bed and draw a really thick line under it. You're telling your mind, okay, I'm done now. I'm not thinking about this anymore. So it's really about really going through that process of, you know, not just having it in your own head, but actually putting it down on paper. Because what happens, like, when you can see that, sometimes you can look at it and think, oh, so maybe it wasn't so bad, or you can gain a different perspective of the situation as well. So yeah, that's kind of how journaling has helped me over the years. Like, you know, just putting your thoughts, feelings down, and you know, when you look back, you kind of, you know, if you look back on a journey, you'll be like, oh, I've got through that bit. You know, it's like, it shows you your growth as well, which also gives you confidence in yourself that you can get through those challenges as well. So that's kind of one of the aspects of journaling that I kind of, you know, work on myself, but also, you know, encourage my clients to also journal as well. So yeah.
And journaling, I feel like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, there doesn't always have to be an issue or a problem. And you know, who knows what you may discover when you're writing about anything, you know, whether it's your day, how you're feeling, or even if you are feeling amazing and happy that particular day, you know, who knows what it can bring you. It's kind of, I find journaling quite transformative.
Right.
In the sense that I don't do it every day. I wish I did, actually. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's because I don't have time. You can actually journal, you know, for 1 minute, 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's
before
right.
you sleep, or in the morning, or when you're on the train or in a taxi, wherever, however your commute is into work or out of work, however it transpires in your day. So I feel like, me saying to myself, which I always say, I don't have the time for that.
Right.
It's probably not a great excuse.
Yeah, I think as you get into the habit of it, you kind of like, because I know the times when I'm struggling, because I get my journal out. So like you, I don't journal every day.
Yeah.
But it's in those important times that I feel like, okay, I need to journal, I need to get this out.
Yeah.
And by just writing out the situation, writing out what happened, writing out how I felt.
Yeah.
In that moment as well, I can actually support myself. I am supporting myself because I'm actually showing I'm committed to, you know, to that internal work. I'm committed to, you know, looking after myself, because that's kind of what's got me through, you know, breakdowns and everything. Just like, like you said, it can be a minute, it can be 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be like you sit there for half an hour. Definitely not. It's just like grabbing those moments when you actually feel like you need to as well. So yeah.
Can I talk a little bit about breakdown? How do you
Yeah.
know that you're having a breakdown? I mean, there's no real kind of definition of what a breakdown is, not that I found or know about, to be honest.
Yeah.
So how would someone know that actually I'm having a breakdown and this I need to do something about it?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. So my very first breakdown at the age of 20, I didn't actually know I was having a breakdown. But I know that if I look back, I was at that time. So after I lost my mum, I was just out with my friends, getting into, things that a teenager would be doing. So possibly drinking, smoking, all of that stuff. And, that wasn't having a positive impact on me as well. I hadn't grieved the loss of my mum. So already you can kind of see some of the signs that, okay, I'm drinking too much, I'm doing the wrong things that aren't healthy for me. Those are some of the signs that say, oh, things aren't good. But as a 20-year-old, I did not recognize those things. So my experience of breakdown was I actually started hearing voices. And, also I was, just kind of like, because I was, not having all the right things go into my body, all of that impacted me hearing voices, like whether, the doctors wanted to term it schizophrenia or that type of thing. But for me, I know that I wasn't myself, and I was overwhelmed. I was very overwhelmed. And it got to a point where I ended up in a mental hospital with my first breakdown because I was just not coping. I wasn't myself. And I also remember, my family were very supportive at that time. And my younger brother's like to me, find your inner strength. And I was like, I don't know where it is. I don't know. So, it's about really being able to tune into yourself. It's like knowing yourself enough so that you can recognize the signs, because that breakdown, because I didn't recognize the signs, it creeped up on me. So it's about, journaling will also help that because you're self-reflecting and you're kind of building in the tools that are actually going to, steer you away from having a breakdown as well. At that time, I had no tools at all. I didn't really, probably heard about therapy, but it wasn't something that I'd even considered. I just thought, okay, I just need to get back on my feet now. And that's kind of, so it's about really knowing yourself. That can help as well. Like, but yeah, it's all the signs where you know that you're not yourself. You just know yourself that things aren't right for me. I'm definitely not. And it'll be unique to everybody as well. So what I'm saying here, that may not be applicable to other people, but it's about really knowing yourself, I'd say, which would really help people in that understanding.
So, you talk about tuning into yourself. How do you tune into yourself and really kind of tune into your intuition and what you're feeling? And from that, learning to love and accept everything to do with that.
Yeah, no, I hear that. So, intuition as well, for me, when I had my breakdown, I kind of didn't really know what that was either. So I guess my brother's saying you're in a power, you probably call that intuition as well. Some people might call it their inner God, some people call it my I am presence as well. So I was totally disconnected to that. And it's taken me time to kind of really know and tune in, to kind of like to gauge, what that is for me. So I can give you a couple of examples. So your intuition will more than likely it usually catches you when you're sat down relaxing, right? You may feel a nudge, an inner nudge or something. You feel like this kind of feels right. I'll give you an example of that. So I've got two experiences recently that I thought, oh my goodness, this was my intuition. So if you roll back to December 2019, just before COVID hit, my family and I, we love to travel. So we were like looking at holidays, thinking, okay, we're like, okay, we're going to go to Dubai. And so I was sort of saying, okay, I want to go in January. another family member was saying, no, I want to go in March. And I stuck to my guns. I was like, I want to, I didn't know why it was being so forceful, but I was like, I want to go in January.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that we did, because had we left it till March, yeah, we would have been in lockdown and we wouldn't have had that holiday. We would have been like, so that's kind of simple way of looking at your intuition. Another example is, house hunting. So recent, before I moved into my current property, looking around at houses, the right house wasn't coming. And then all of a sudden I saw this property on Rightmove and I was like, okay, I love the look of that, but it's a 2-bed. But I feel like my intuition nudged me to go and sit. I was like, it didn't make logical sense. Why would I be going to look at a 2-bed house when I actually want a 3-bed?
Yeah.
But I actually went anyway. And as soon as I walked through the door, I was like, this is nice. Where you get all the yeses, like, yes.
Yeah.
Went out to the garden, looked at the house from the back. Oh my goodness. Like I kind of, I was just in this place of like, it was a total yes. But I was thinking to myself, well, hold on a minute. It's 2-bed and we need 3. And, so the estate agent at the time just said, well, most people just convert the garage. I was like, oh, okay. So it was just it was that simple. And what happened was within 3 months, we were moved, because what had happened prior to that, I was trying to sell my house and my house was not selling. But how this all worked out was I was able to take equity out of my old property and pull it into the new property. So it was just like, it was seamless. It was so quick.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're like banging your head against a brick wall thinking, why is this not working? Why is this not working? Well, I trusted my intuition in that situation. And I actually got, because I wanted to buy more property anyway. So I was able to do 2 things at once. And that was through following my intuition. Like, my logic would have said to me, it's 2-bed, don't even bother going to see it. But I was just like, I'm going anyway. And it was perfect. So those are just 2 examples of like really just, your intuition doesn't often make logical sense. It's about just being able to build a trust and confidence in it as well. And also like the work that I do with my clients, when we, so when we're doing the work, I've got this 3-step transformation model. The first step is that self-understanding. The second step is really loving and accepting yourself, but also tuning into your intuition. And I would always say to my clients to gauge through your intuition, what, you've got this goal. Do you feel worthy of this goal? So really trusting what comes through for you. Like, don't use your logic, use your feeling, that inner feeling that, intuition, you can't put your hands on it. So it's just like, I think when you just know.
Yeah.
And so really kind of helping clients to really gauge that, because through that gauging, they know then what they need to work on to get. So for example, the plan is to move again, right? And like, how worthy do I feel of that next step? How worthy do I feel of that next step? Tuning into that, then doing the work. So I would mark it out of 10. If it was a 5, I think, okay, I need to do all of these steps to get me to that feeling of knowing that I'm worthy and deserving of what it is I want. And also, when we think about that loving and accepting ourselves, again, we go back to the inner child, because the inner child is often screaming out to us that I'm not in a good place, I'm not feeling good. And we've been used to just ignoring those parts of ourselves. So some of the work that I've done with myself and with my clients to reconnect with that inner child, because when your inner child and you are in alignment, you can make so many different things happen. And I would say you become invincible when your inner child and yourself are in alignment, but also you are in alignment with, your God self. Those 3 things, you can become invincible. That's from my perspective. So some of the work that I do with my clients to heal is to go back to your childhood and remind yourself of all the things that you love doing. What was it that you loved doing as a child? So I was very sporty. I loved drawing. So when I was doing the work on myself, my inner child, I just literally got out a book. I would draw. I would do all the things that helped me to connect with my inner child. And often when we're feeling that trauma, so for example, growing up, we would be given money to go and buy our Christmas presents, as that's how my family did it. So I went and bought myself this beautiful doll, and I love this doll, and I did something wrong. I can't remember what it was, but the doll was taken and given to someone else, and that was actually devastating.
Yeah.
So through my inner child work, I went and bought myself a doll. I reconnected, and that's how I connected with my inner child. And I also have my clients do that as well. What was that time in your life that really impacted you? What did you need back then? That's kind of what I say to them. What did you need back then? Because when we're triggered in the present, if we can tune into ourselves and think, okay, what do I need right now, or what did I need back then, depending on the trigger, you're actually helping yourself to kind of become resilient to those challenges. So yeah, that's kind of I think I've kind of given a really big answer there, but I hope that all makes sense.
No, it does. I think that's fantastic, actually. I definitely think I'll be trying some of that for sure. I'll be looking back and thinking, what were those triggers, and what is my inner child saying, and the things that I used to find joyful when I was a child, kind of reconnecting with things like that. I mean, mine's a bit of an unusual one. I'm not really sure how I would reconnect, but I used to, when I was younger, I used to do a lot of airplane spotting.
Okay, yeah.
It sounds a bit odd. I don't know why I did that, but I had this huge fascination with airplanes, and looking at the sky and watching them land and take off, and see what airline it was, whether it's British Airways or whatever. And the other fascination I had was with the Concorde, which is no longer.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
I used to just sit there and watch and wait until all these airplanes went by, and write down what I saw.
Oh wow, that's what was right for you, right? That's what you wanted. That's what your inner child was seeing. So imagine.
I don't know what that transpires to. I have no idea.
Do you like to travel?
I do like to travel. Yeah, I love traveling. That is one thing I definitely love doing. Yeah. And I still, when I'm driving to the airport, or even when I'm out walking or whatever, and I see an airplane in the sky about to land, or the one that's taken off, I immediately, I am drawn to that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's your inner child. You're connecting with your inner child there. If you saying that's what you did as a child, that's your connection. That's if you felt disconnected, you go and look at planes and do what you did when you were younger, and that's where you build your connection. So it's quite interesting that you say that that's what you did, right? Everyone's unique. Everyone is unique in it. So I
know it's one of those kind of random things. I mean, there were other things I did, but that's one thing that really sticks out, and I still love doing.
Right.
I don't write anything down, but I just still love watching airplanes, like any type of airplanes, even if it's like an RAF jet or something.
Right. Yeah. No, that's brilliant. I know. I love hearing that, because it really does say that you are connecting with your inner child. Like when you do those things, you're fit. You feeling good means your inner child is feeling good, right? You're like, oh, this feels really good, and your inner child is feeling that as well. Like so, that's part of that connection, and just being.
I love that though. I love that kind of reconnecting with your inner child. What things did you really love doing as a child, whatever that is, and then kind of exploring how you can do some of that now, or it might be as simple as going to buy that doll. Whatever that is. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the other things I did as a child was I was quite sporty, so I would run a lot. And I wouldn't say that I run a lot now. I don't know if this, but it was something that gave me confidence in myself as a young girl. Because at primary school, I'd say I was the fastest girl. So I'd have my, the other kids coming up and saying, "Oh, can I race you? Can I race you?" And I would race and I'd win, and it would be a boost to my inner child. So I think that's kind of like that determination nature, like, that kind of like, because, my determination comes from that, but my mum was also very determined. So when she wanted something, she would go out and get it. And I'm the same now. So, it's about just reminding yourself, like, I've got a whole like through the inner child work, I've got a whole list of things that I used to do. So if I'm feeling disconnected, I get that all out. It's not like I have it out all the time, but when I was doing that work, it was like I built if you want to call it a shrine to my inner child. You know, I had my doll there. There was also this teddy bear elephant that I went and brought myself as well. I had that. I thought about all the things that I love playing, you know, 40-40 growing up. I loved playing that. Just being out with my friends, you know, I just got all those images and that just filled me right up. So I would recommend, if anyone's feeling disconnected with themselves, really just take time out and really, if you want to, build a shrine to your inner child. Because even though when I was doing that work, I was like, you know, I'm not quite sure about this, but now I'm so connected, right? But just don't get me wrong, I still get triggered, but I know how to work through that trigger a lot quicker than I did before. And, you know, I know how to get myself and my inner child lined up so that we can work together to kind of through the challenges, or, you know, so that my inner child feels fully supported. I think that's what's important for me, but that will be different things for different people as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, looking at kind of tuning into yourself, like you said, is so important, especially with the whole kind of generational trauma, like you said. A lot of people have that, especially, I think you are as well, first generation born here.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, born here.
And our parents came over, like yours did, you know, yours came through the Windrush.
Yeah.
Mine came as immigrants
Right.
for a better life here, but obviously they experienced quite a few things with racism and so on.
Yeah.
Which was then potentially taken out on us. And then,
This is it.
you know, we have to know that to improve, to make sure we don't pass a lot of hours onto our children. And then, you know, you have to stop the cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, as you're talking about that, it kind of really builds up the passion in me. So I am the founder and director, or one of the directors, of a business called Time to Heal Directory. And Time to Heal Directory was born out of the killing of George Floyd in 2020. And I literally got to a point where I was like, you know, Black people need to heal. Because when we think about generational trauma, if we think about the killing of George Floyd, you know, it was just like I was at despair. So that's what Time to Heal Directory, that's where it was born. And at that time, though, through my work, so I may have said it already, but I'm a trained psychotherapist, I'm a transformational coach, I work in the EDI space as well, but I'm also an accountant, because I kind of trained to be an accountant early on, because, you know, at that time I wanted to support my daughters in the best way that I could. And I was surrounded by lots of accountants out there who were actually doing it. So I kind of went along with that. So I was able to work my way up from, you know, my very first job as a credit controller. And when I kind of left my accounting post, which was at the end of 2022, I left a post being the wellbeing and finance director. And, you know, for me, that was a really great achievement, right? To be able to kind of move through that. But at that Time to Heal Directory didn't get any love because I had no energy. I was working this intense full-time job, trying to do everything, and I couldn't give any time to Heal Directory. So what happened in 2022, I refocused the business and I changed it to a non-profit business that's aimed at supporting young people and families in need. At the time, I didn't know why I was doing it. I just felt drawn to, I thought, okay, this feels right. Again, you probably want to call it my intuition, right? And so I set it up as a non-profit aimed at supporting young people and families in need. And as I've been able to talk more about my story, I actually see that I was actually that young girl that needed the help. I was the young girl who was traumatized. So in a way, the business is giving back to the younger generation. And it's all about, like you said, breaking that generational trauma. Like we have to do the work. Like we really do. Like it's about taking full responsibility, because otherwise the cycle continues. And I'm really passionate about that, right? I'm really passionate about that. So you know, in our family, we all do the work because we recognize the importance of that. And sometimes when you're going through it, like I said, it can feel like, oh, this is a drag, it's taking forever. You know, some people might come in with different expectations, thinking they're going to move through the work really quickly, but depends on what your story is. And it sometimes takes longer, and it's about being patient to kind of understand that, you know, you'll know when you're done, and that sometimes that can be a long timeline, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, yeah.
And I get, you know, with generational trauma, it's not just about people that immigrated somewhere, or, you know, it could be anything.
No.
You know, it's not just about immigration. I just want to make that clear. So, you know, it's not just about people that came over to the UK or go to any other country or whatever that is. It's not just about that. It is about, you know, your trauma through the generations, and whatever that is, and that carrying on from one person to the next, and it's never broken.
Yeah.
As in the cycle's never broken.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, I'll confirm that as well. I'm talking about my experience and the experience of my family, but, you know, everyone, you know, I'd probably say that everyone's potentially had some sort of trauma, maybe, or whether it might be small, it might be big, but you know, my thing is about, if we all had therapy and we all worked on ourselves, what sort of world would we have? So yeah, we're not discounting anybody on this podcast. You know, everyone has their own experiences. So yeah, it's about, you know, valuing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, because we were talking about immigration, because obviously we're both, you know, we've both our parents were immigrants. That's why we related to that. But just making it clear that it's not just about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I guess that ties into whatever generational trauma there is, or whatever's going on, you know, that feeling of belonging. Can you explain, what does that actually mean? How can you make that happen? And, you know, how do you know whether you don't feel like you belong? What are the messages that you're giving to yourself that actually, I don't know if I belong? And how can you make that happen?
So, you know, if we roll back to the beginning of my story, like I said, my parents came to the UK. They didn't feel welcomed. You know, they're given the worst jobs. They weren't valued and appreciated. So if we roll forward to 2024, it's about really knowing that you are safe to be yourself. So I do work in the workplace with employees around belonging. And, you know, there are generally some themes for those employees who want to feel like they belong. And some of them are, I want to be myself. I don't want to show up with a mask on. I kind of want to be free to be myself. That's a really important factor, because, you know, when you're showing up with a mask on, that takes so much energy that you can't do your work as well, you know, to the best of your ability. So when employees are able to show up to be their true selves, if that's what's important for them, they're then able to do their best work, right? So that's one of the themes. Feeling valued and appreciated as well. You know, if, for example, you know, I'm sure that we've all worked in companies where we didn't feel that, we weren't feeling seen. And that's some of the reasons that when you talk to people, like, oh, you know, I left that job because I actually didn't feel like I belonged there. That's kind of it. Like, I'm not feeling valued. I feel like I'm just a number. So that's another thing. But also part of belonging as well, and this is aimed in the workplace, is about working together to achieve a common goal. You know, people feel like they belong because they're actually doing something together. And that's what's important as well. So those tend to be the themes. But if we think about outside of the workplace, like, you know, for example, I'll go back to the mental health aspect. If you're struggling, like my 20-year-old, I wore the mask. I didn't want the shame of it. Like, I felt shame, but I didn't want people to know what was going on for me. So I would say that find people that you feel safe to be yourself around, because that's going to help you to kind of feel that sense of belonging. But also, like, you know, as entrepreneurs, we kind of like, you know, we mix together, right? Because we all sometimes have that common goal. You know, that's kind of part of why I'm on this call today, right? And it's like connecting with people who you do feel like you're working towards a common goal with, right? Those are the elements that help people to feel like they belong. And if I also think about the non-profit business that Time to Heal Directory, I've been thinking more and more about young people and how can we help young people to feel like they belong. Because what you find is there's so much peer pressure for young people that, you know, they wear a mask, they feel like they can't be themselves. They sometimes feel like they need to be part of groups that might not be right for them. It may not, they may feel that it's not right, but they feel like they have no choice.
Yeah.
So I, you know, as part of Time to Heal Directory, one of the things that we really kind of want to help with is helping young people to feel like they belong as well. I feel like that would have a really great impact as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the directory is fantastic. I know it's not rolled out 100% yet. I know you're seeking funding for it. And correct me if I'm wrong, what I would like to say is that it will be something that will provide young people and families with an opportunity if they aren't able to, you know, because let's face it, counselling and all these therapies, that they're very expensive. It's not cheap. And a lot of people don't have access to that. And then you have the huge waiting list on the NHS for that.
Yeah.
So if you're lucky, you may get seen. Most people don't get seen within the time frame that they need. So this directory will be there to provide that support for young people and families.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, you know, now that I'm kind of really understand what this is about, it feels like my mission, because it was my journey. You know, I got counselling, I got coaching, and it's helped me to be where I am today. So to be able to give that back to young people and families in need who don't have the tools, don't have the resources. You know, like you said, we're at the early stages where we're going for our first bit of funding right now, but it's, you know, when we do get off the ground, yeah, it's going to have a really positive impact. So yeah, I can just feel that fire in me coming up, like, wow, yeah, it's so important.
Absolutely, it can be a game changer for people, you know, to get. I mean, I really hope that the funding goes through, because it will be a game changer for so many people, like young people and families that don't get that support that they need, for sure. So moving on to collaborations, I'm a huge advocate for collaborations and so on. What are you looking for right now that could help you or your businesses or other people?
Yeah, so, you know, we are, you know, so one of the models within Time to Heal Directory is all about working with corporate businesses to provide well-being and coaching services to their teams.
Right.
So their teams, like, kind of, you know, they get help and that impacts their businesses.
Yeah.
And a percentage of our fee goes back into our directory to support young people and families in need. So we've got different revenue streams that we kind of picking on. So we're looking for any corporate business that wants to just kind of get support with their teams, but it also impacts their social responsibility goals as well. You know, so it's kind of like a win-win. When I thought about the model, like, it feels like a win-win. We're giving, but young people and families are also getting. So, like, together, if you want to say together we rise, together we make a difference. So that's one of the things we're looking for. We're also looking for, like, organisations that want to partner with us. In our local area, we're working with a young people's organisation who we are in the process of building that partnership as well. So anyone listening who's also passionate about this and kind of who wants to build resources together, we're definitely looking for that as well. And in terms of my own personal work, again, that's the corporate work where I will do, like, things around equity, diversity, inclusion and belonging, all of that, but also supporting people to transform their lives, because that's one of the things that I actually love.
Yeah.
I love it when I have a client who starts with me and I see them transform. And I say, before my very eyes, that client has transformed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, helping clients to transform is also a real passion of mine. So I feel like really lucky right now that I'm actually living my purpose. I feel like that's where I'm at right now. So, yeah, I'm just really grateful that the connections that I'm building and, I feel like I'm in a really great place right now.
Yeah. What so going with that then, what top 3 empowering advice would you give to women who are really trying to who are trying to figure out what it is that they need right now, whether it's from a mental health aspect or just discovering how to tune into your intuition?
Yeah.
Where do you start? That's the point.
Yeah, of course. And it's like, so I think, like, if we think about mental health, it's really important that you get supported. Because without the support, you feel isolated, you're on your own, and that makes whatever's happening to you bigger. So I would say getting the right support, connecting with the right people as well. And it's also important to be yourself. Like, don't hide it. Don't hide it. Find people that you feel safe with to really support you. So I would say that in terms of in terms of when you do start doing the work, if for example, it was an issue that you felt that, you really wanted to work on, I'd say just be consistent and just be consistent when you do find, whether it's a counsellor, therapist or coach to support you. Just be consistent in the work, because through that consistency, you actually get out the other side. And it's about also being very patient. And I know we've spoken about this with the work, because, like I said, I had times in my life when I just wanted it to be over. And I'm so glad I stuck it out, because I probably wouldn't be sat here talking to you right now, because I'd be, not feeling worthy, not feeling valuable enough. But when you really, really do the work consistently, you're kind of giving yourself a gift, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And I know I've said quite a few, but inner child work, definitely. Like we've spoken about, really, like, and different things will work for different people. So you have to, understand what is it that you need, because everyone has their own unique things that are going to help them to move forward. So, there's going to be different things that will work for different people.
Yeah. I think the inner child stuff is probably, for me anyway, one of the things that I would take away from this, for sure.
Yeah.
Pauline, thank you so much for being on the Empower Her podcast. It's been great to have you on.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been really great. I will just add that for many, many years, I wouldn't even think about getting out and sharing my story, but I realised that when I do that, it's really empowering for me, but it's also empowering for others as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and share with you.
No, thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for tuning in to Empower Her. I hope today's episode has left you feeling inspired and motivated to make a positive difference in your world. Please follow the podcast and share it with anyone who will find it helpful. Until next time, keep striving for positive change and greatness for all women.